Hey guys, it's Dan or aDrive here, the creator of Elestrals, bringing you guys another AMA as the Elestral CEO, answering your tough questions that you guys leave for us in Discord and giving you all the clarity and updates you might be looking for on the Elestrals franchise. And today we've got a new kind of guest with me today. Keith couldn't make it, so we've got my buddy Wirtz here. What's up, bro?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Glad to be on the main channel for once.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to have you, dude. I'm so pumped. So, for those who don't know, Wirtz and I actually go way back. We've known each other for quite a long time. And then Elestrals was announced, and you dove headfirst right into it, man, doing some content stuff. And I really appreciate that, first of all. But you've been a huge part of our community, and I can't imagine the Elestrals community without you. I genuinely mean that. So I'm stoked to have you here, dude. Like, I'm really excited that we get to do this together.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm not the only person in the community, so I guess you just want to just jump into these questions and let's go.
All right, man, let's make it happen. Let's go, dude.
All right, so first question we have from 0KB. He writes, I know most of the lore of Elestrals will be fed through the website, but what other forms of media do you expect to do in the future to build upon the lore? Webs, comics, manga, animated shorts on YouTube or elsewhere? Easter eggs, teasers via imagery on merch? I'm just curious and I want to know about all the lore, smiley face.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a really good question. I know a lot of people want to know lore, so I'll kind of start on the ground level, right? So kind of the main lore that we released was like a trailer that we released pre-Kickstarter last year, and I'll just be real with you guys, that took a lot to produce, right? Like, we had to get, animators and voiceover people and the lore writers, and it was a pretty significant project for us at that early stage of Elestrals. Nonetheless, from there, I know that lore is something that you guys want to see more of, and so do I. So I can tell you that we were working really, really hard on it, and we have so much stuff to share. It's just we're not quite ready to share it yet. So I will tell you that you're going to get stuff in the form of short stories. That's kind of the next big thing that's being worked on right now on our end. We've obviously been doing a lot of posts on social media, so we've been kind of sprinkling things in there, giving you a little bit of flavor of what the world of Elestria looks like, and some information about these different Elestrals and runes and divines and how they all kind of interact. And again, we're going to start to peel back the curtain on that more and more over the coming months. Now, I would love to get involved in a comic or a manga or any sort of thing like that, especially from the animated perspective when it comes to, type of cartoons and things of that nature, but also just like little shorts of us using our resources on our team to create really epic little kind of 1-2 minute segments on our YouTube channel and stuff. So all of these areas are areas that we're exploring. I just want to be very honest that like that part of things, it's an unfortunate thing that like it costs a lot to put together those like high production quality kind of videos and stuff. And it's a lot of effort, right? Like, not to say that we're not doing it or that we're not going to do it. We have a lot of things planned, but these things take some time. So we've got all the pieces of the puzzle kind of coming together. You're going to see a lot of really cool lore stuff coming out. In the meantime, just enjoy the social media posts and kind of stay tuned for Derek Sidaway's his lore. He's going to be writing these short stories, and he started on them, so I'm very excited to share those with you guys. But it'll be a little bit longer until those are released. So expect everything. We're working on everything, really, is what it comes down to. But these things just take time, and they could be a little expensive, so we don't want to do too much too soon or too fast. Like, we have to kind of pace ourselves and make sure that we're not just putting stuff out for the sake of putting stuff out, but really putting things out that are valuable for you guys to kind of consume and to build upon the world. So just hang tight with us. It's going to be sick. We've got some really cool stuff in the works.
Yeah, and just to highlight one last thing on this question, he does mention Easter eggs in the questions. Any thoughts about putting like little Easter eggs or teasers to the lore on the card arts going forward, or just like sneaking in storylines into the cards?
Yeah. So that's actually one thing you're going to start to see as you get a little further in kind of our set development. So you'll see a little bit of that in set 2, and then as you start to look at set 3, when that starts to get, announced and stuff, you're going to see those elements actually weaved in a little bit more. It's funny, I was actually just having a conversation with one of the members of our team recently about that exact thing. Now that we have more story built out internally, now that we have a better idea of how everything works internally, we can start to integrate some of those ideas into the card artwork. So 100% you're going to see it. It's going to be awesome, and it's really going to start to bring the world together. So I think it's going to be, I think you guys are going to really dig it when you start to see that stuff coming. It's just, there's a bit of a lead time here in the development process. So we're working on stuff that comes out, it's August. I mean, it comes out in like March or April, right? That's what we're working on right now. So it's a little funny, but we're working on some really cool stuff. So hang tight. It's going to be sick.
Yeah, well, all good things take time, so I guess let's start moving on to the next question before we get stuck on this. So the next question here we have from Dark Gray. How did you go about selecting artists you want to work with?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So the initial kind of post for Elestrals was me tweeting on my aDrive account like, hey, I'm looking for a really good fake Pokemon designer. Can someone hit me up with some people that, you know, maybe are in the space? And I have no shame in saying that, like, the vast majority of our artists, we have an artist team of like 25, 30 people, the vast majority of them kind of started as either, you know, fake Pokemon designers or kind of artists that were making kind of artwork around those types of franchises. And I feel like it's the sweet spot because it's clearly their level of interest and their passion, and that's exactly what they like to do. And it's very relevant to what we're trying to create of kind of another monster franchise. So while I think that when people are very quick to assume that we're like very similar to Pokemon, I don't think we quite are. I do think that obviously there's been a lot of inspiration. A lot of our roots have come from the fact that, you know, I was obviously a Pokemon content creator for how long, and I was pretty entrenched in that community, and I had a pretty solid network to a lot of the people in that community, and that's really where we found a lot of our artists. So it kind of started with just cold outreach, me reaching out to artists that I found from looking through hashtags or people I already knew, or just seeing like retweets, or hey, I saw this fake art come up and I'm like, yo, that looks sick. And I would just hit up the artist and be like, hey, listen, I've got this project. Like, are you looking for commissions? Are you looking for work? And that's one thing that I really think is awesome about what we're doing is that every single artist is under a contract, right? They're under a freelance contract, but they don't have to do any art if they don't want to, and they can do as much as they want to. So with that being said, like, we find that all of our artists are super motivated to create the art that they're creating. They don't generally get put under any sort of strict pressure or deadlines or timings or any of that stuff. It's like very laid back. Hey, if you could do this, here's what we want you to do. If you can't do it, cool, I'll ask another artist to do it, or we'll table this idea for later. Very few times have we had to kind of like be like, yo, we need this pretty soon, can you make it happen, kind of thing. But we have a very good kind of working relationship with all of our artists, and they're so crucial and instrumental to the development of the project. So we've got a great group of people, and I'm really stoked. It's really, the dominoes have really kind of fallen into place. We've got some incredibly talented people.
Yeah, I always appreciate that. You know, happy artists, I think, make better art when they're passionate about their own artwork as well. So I think that's always a great way to go with things. But now we're going to move on from card art to card effects, the actual mechanics of the game with this question. In the future, will cards of the same name have different effects? For example, in the Pokemon TCG, base set Pikachu is very different from a Pikachu card that is released today. Or do you foresee it being more like Yu-Gi-Oh, where like Dark Magician may have different art now, but it's still the exact same card mechanically?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I can tell you that it's definitely the first option, not the second option, but it is a little bit the second option too, right? So I think you're going to see, as the world of Elestrals expands and as more cards and sets come out, you'll most certainly see cards of the same name or similar name with new effects, and they'll be playable simultaneously, essentially. I don't want to go too deep into this just because, not that I'm hiding anything, but these kind of announcements are going to be pretty robust over the next couple months, so just hang tight on that. But yeah, it's going to be more along the lines of how Pokemon does things. I don't think it would be feasible for us to create, you know, the thousands and thousands of creature designs that Yu-Gi-Oh has done. That's not what I want anyway, right? Like, I would much rather have a collective group of Elestrals that I think are really dope and really focusing on those, as opposed to every new set we're releasing 50 to 100 new Elestrals, and we're doing that, you know, every year we're releasing 100, 200, 300 Elestrals every year. Like, that was never my vision, and I don't see that ever being my vision, right? Like, I'm kind of looking at the Gen 1 of Elestrals, right, as the first 4 sets. I think once you kind of see that and the full picture of that, then you'll have a pretty good understanding of how this is all going to play out. But without saying too much more, I've already said a little bit more than I wanted to say. You know, I think you'll probably see it more along the lines of how Pokemon has done it throughout the years.
All right, I guess we'll just move on to the next question, because keep it simple. So Dane asked, will there be a card checklist so that you can mark off which cards you already have and any ones that you still have to collect, like an official app or maybe part of the official website?
Yeah, so we do have a person on our team who's working on those types of projects. That's where Stellar Pull comes from, right? So we obviously, you've got Stellar Pull out there. We've got our new website design coming. So there's like a few projects in the works, and one of those projects ultimately is planned to be like this all-in-one kind of card collector type of catalog app, or at least plug into our website. So the exact details of that are not super clear, but, you know, end user feasibility and accessibility is going to be a priority. So, you know, those things are on our radar. They're things that we have discussed internally, but, you know, still kind of one thing at a time is really how we're operating right now, especially in this space. So, you know, Stellar Pull, we've rolled out a ton of new features since its launch. Our website is primed to be launching here in the next few weeks, right, we're pretty much getting prepared for the leftover Kickstarter inventory and then the launch of Shattered Stars. So those are two pretty big things, right? Like having the infrastructure to facilitate the subscription program and having the back end with fulfillment and having the clean website with, you know, a lot of products from Kickstarter. There's a lot of pieces that have to happen here. And there's a lot of other bells and whistles that are being added to the website. So it's a pretty extensive process, believe it or not. But yeah, these things like the card collector, that kind of stuff, I want to have sorting and filtering added to the card catalog on the existing website. So those are some of the things that we are working on, and you'll see over the coming months. It's just a matter of having the resource power to make it happen and to do it effectively. But we've got the right team to make it happen. It's just, like I said, kind of one thing at a time right now.
Yeah, and if it's anything to hold you over, a lot of the community members made their own spreadsheets and stuff, so you could always ask the community Discord and see if there's something available for you that way as well. I think is another great thing about the community. People are just making things to help everybody else out, which is super great.
Yeah, I love that, actually. That's awesome. So I personally just throw my stuff in a binder and then I see which slots are missing. So that's the way I do it. But yeah, definitely, we definitely want to have like a collection type app at some point. So or at least like a plug into the website. So we'll get there.
All right, and then going from collection to collection size, will we ever get a set in the future having a bunch more cards than base set, like 200 plus cards? And I'm assuming they mean unique cards here.
Yeah. So I don't want to go into the habit of saying never, right? Like, because so many things can change in the scope of like building a business and what we're trying to do with Elestrals. But I could tell you, like, with me at the helm here, I don't think there's any world where we're going to a 200 card set, man. I'm not a big fan of it myself. Like, a lot of Elestrals is driven from my own personal beliefs and, you know, my experience as a collector and as a player. And I feel like those really, really big sets are not healthy for anybody, man. Like, you end up just having so many cards that are like, I don't want to say filler cards, but like, I just feel like there's no way you can have a set of 250 cards and have them all have some sort of usefulness, right? Like, at that point, you're just printing the same card with different like hollow patterns over and over again, and that's not something I really want to get into. I think it makes collecting very difficult for people. I think it's just very unapproachable. And then from a resource perspective, right? Like, admittedly, we do not have the resources to be doing what that would equate to us producing like something like 800 or 900 different card arts in a year. Like, our team is not nearly the size to handle that. Like, as it is right now, we're probably going to be, you know, 400 or 500 card arts a year, something like that. And like, that's a lot. Like, our team is working hard to make that happen. You know, and obviously we can get more artists and things like that, but at the same time, like, I'm a big believer that like the 80 to 100 card set is like a really, really nice sweet spot, unless you're talking about like a really big set like base set was, or kind of like the introduction to something game changing in the world of the card game. So I would say I could tell you that, you know, set 2 ends up peaking just over 100 cards. It ended up being bigger than I originally planned. I was thinking it was gonna be like 80, but we had so many good ideas. I was like, let's just put them in. Like, we gotta do it. But in terms of set 3 and set 4, like, as I'm finishing those or like developing those right now, I can tell you that I'm aiming for like that kind of 80 to probably 90-ish cards. I say that, I'll probably hit 100 on both anyway. But yeah, 200 cards, man, forget it. Like, I have zero interest in trying to make that happen. That doesn't seem productive for anybody, nor healthy, nor good for the community. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me you'd rather have a 250 card set, but that's just not my jam, guys. I'm not into that. I'm sorry. It's not for me. So I think we're probably gonna stick to our, you know, like I said, 80 to 100-ish card sets. I think that's a really good place to be.
Yeah, set 1's felt very nice with its size, about, what, 120 something cards. There's a lot of just variations of decks that I see popping up all over the place, lots of places to explore, so it would baffle me to see what a 200 card set would even mean for just deck building community in general. I think that's a little excessive on the Elestrals front.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too is, like, you know, when I design a card, I try to think of how can this card be viable now or in the future, right? And I feel like when you're doing 250, 300 card sets and you're releasing them at a pace that's very frequent, right? Like, we're saying we're doing 3 sets a year. Some of these companies are doing this, but they're doing like 4 or 5 sets a year. That's crazy, because you just end up with cards that are just, no offense to them, but there's no way all of these cards are going to be functional, like, or viable in any sort of. You end up with effects that are just garbage, that don't have any relevance. Like, what's the point of that? Like, I don't want to just fill the game with cards that don't matter, right? Sure, there's some cards that are better than others, right? Like, that's always going to be the case, but my goal in designing the card effects and designing the cards themselves is to try to make everything have some sort of viability. And maybe I didn't get it perfect, but I think we did pretty good. So that's going to be a big design philosophy for me moving forward. So yeah, definitely want to have viability. I want the cards to have function.
Alright, and we're going to use those functions for a tournament question. So Wreck-It Rob TCG is asking, now that the majority of the community has received or will soon be receiving their Kickstarter orders, when might we start hearing about a more official Elestrals webcam tournament? I always thought that it would be amazing to have a bi-weekly or monthly stream of competitive matches that were commentated over similarly to how esports seasons are, and at the end of the season, the top-ranked players qualify to participate in a championship tournament.
Yeah, so the timing of this is a little funny because I just posted an announcement video today, and I talked a little bit about this, but that is coming soon, right? So I know most of the people in the US have their stuff. The EU, UK, Canada still don't have their stuff. By the end of August, they should be. I'm in the middle of transitioning my office. In fact, this is probably the last video I film at this office. I'm not sure, but I'm going to be transitioning to my new office. And at that point, I'll be doing a lot of tutorial stuff, teaching people the game, right? Because now that everyone has their stuff, I think it's important that we take some time, a few weeks to teach everyone how to play the game, right? Those who may have gotten cards or whatever. So keep an eye out on like webcam type sessions and digital app sessions and things like that. From there, we're going to be running online events initially, right? So webcam online events and digital online events. I'm going to do both. We're probably going to do them in an alternating format. I'm not sure exactly the frequency yet, but I can tell you that I just hired someone on our team to focus on that as part of their job. So we have a kind of a new community manager liaison person who is going to be facilitating that process for us, right? Like helping organize the tournaments and the structure of them and working with a schedule and working with all the different teams. So that is something that we are very much focused on and I'm very looking forward to. I think what we'll probably end up doing is, I would say at a bare minimum, I'm hoping to pick 2 nights out of a month and have, announce it at least, a few months ahead. Like, okay, this is what the schedule is for September, October, and November, and these are the dates that we're going to have these events. And then we would have those events and, I would put up some sort of cool prize. I know I've got some stuff that, people don't have, like the uncut sheets of Pantera, some sort of cool prototype type stuff. So we've got some really cool prizes that we can work with, and I think we're going to really just focus on building it kind of one thing at a time, taking the feedback from people on what they liked and what they didn't like, and that'll be kind of our focus moving forward. So I would say just hang tight for another few weeks. I think as much as like it stinks to kind of give that answer right now and not give like definitive dates, I really think that this next few week period of teaching people the game and really kind of getting in the swing of things, and then letting the European and Canadian friends get all their stuff, I think that we'll be in good shape from there. So it's coming soon. I'm super pumped for it. I can't wait, and we're gonna have a blast playing some Elestrals. So that's the best part. I love opening the packs, man. I really love playing. So I can't wait to get some games with you guys.
All right, and without spending too much more time on this question, I do want to get ahead of the commenters. Any brief updates on becoming judges or how players can become judges to help these tournaments when they eventually become a thing?
Yeah, so we are working on internally a training manual for kind of our little judge program. We do have some helpers right now that are helping in our Discord server. You're actually one of them. So we have a team of people that are like, ready to rock and help you guys in terms of learning the game and stuff. But we are going to probably need to onboard a few more judges as we develop things out. So that way we have a better kind of system in place for when, these tournaments do happen. So all those things are going to be coming soon. It's just a matter of us getting like those training manuals kind of all finished up and stuff. But they're all in progress. So should be pretty soon, I would imagine. Like I said, that I would look towards like the September time frame for these events to start taking place. I think that'll be a really good sweet spot there.
All right, so we're going to move on to Antonia Stelner's question. Once the remaining Kickstarter products goes on sale, will you put a limit on the number of each items we can buy?
Yeah, so I said in today's update video, I'm recording this on the 11th. It'll probably be a while before it goes up, but I said in the update video today that, the quantities are going to be pretty limited. There's not going to be a lot, right? So we will impose some sort of a limit. I don't know exactly what that number is. Once I have final counts after we finish our backer kit stuff and EU and Canada gets all their stuff and we know, okay, this is exactly how much is left, then I'll make that decision. But I would imagine we'll probably limit things to a couple units per purchase. So, if you want it, like, you're not gonna be able to go on there and buy 50 booster boxes is what I'm gonna say. There's gonna be, limitations to the frequency and the amount that you can purchase, especially in this. But I just want to be really upfront. I've been trying to say it for months now. We do not have a lot of leftover stuff, guys. It is gonna go so quick. Like, I maybe I'm wrong, but it's not a lot of stuff. So I just want to be upfront about it and just say, like, if you're, expecting to get leftover Kickstarter stuff, definitely hold out if you want to hold out until then. I'm hoping for like mid-September for that to go live, but just know that it's absurdly limited. Like, we're talking, I think it's going to end up being like 200 booster boxes left. Like, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. So, I know people who would buy 200 booster boxes for me right now. So, like, it's going to go. You know what I mean? So I just want to be really transparent about that and just have everyone's expectations set properly when that comes. Now, when first edition rolls in, we're going to have a good amount of first edition, but that's also pretty limited too. So, but we'll be communicating as often as we can to let you guys know when these drops are happening, when you can prepare for them. I'm not just going to say, okay, guys, it's all live on the website, go have fun. I'm going to say, hey, a few days ahead of time at least, hey, at this time on this date, we're going to launch this stuff. So people will know what to expect and when to expect it. So you won't get blindsided, but again, I just want to be very, very open that we will impose some limits and it's not going to be a lot of stuff left over. So.
Right, and we're going to actually move from one purchasing question to the next purchasing question. So Magic Mule is asking, when it comes to purchasing for set 1, or I guess first edition in this case, and future set cards, are there going to be package deals like in the Kickstarter where we can, for example, buy a booster box plus ... and then have add-ons, or are we going to have to buy all the products by themselves like we would if we were buying in stores?
Yeah, so at the current time, like, I will tell you that the plan is to have the website launch with the products as separate SKUs, right? So, like, if you want to buy a booster box, you buy a booster box. If you want to buy, a blister pack, you buy that. If you want to buy a starter deck, etc., right? Now, that doesn't mean we won't, like, bundle things together. We may do a deal where if you buy all 5 starter decks, you get a discount. Well, that would be for first edition, right? So you get all 5, you get a discount, or you get 6 booster boxes a case, then you maybe get a discount, right? So, like, there will be some things like that, but I would say, as we move forward, I would not expect the Kickstarter model for purchasing to be how the website functions, right? Like, it's not going to be, all these different, kind of add-ons and all that other different tiers. Like, it's going to be like a, a regular store. You load a page and there's different products. If you want to buy some sleeves, you buy some sleeves. You want to buy a blister pack, you buy a blister pack, right? Again, I'm not going to say we're not going to do cool promotions and stuff from time to time, but I would say expect it to be a la carte, right? You buy the thing you want. So that's typically how every store that I've seen works. Kickstarter is obviously a unique beast where you add in these different promotions and incentives for hitting different goals, but that's not really like a feasible thing to run moving forward. To do those types of package deals, it ends up creating some conflicts on the back end. You have to create new SKUs and new barcodes and everything for fulfillment to kind of function that way. So it does have its own challenges there, and also, like, I don't know how feasible that is like a moving forward business model. I think it might get a little confusing too. So you'll be able to buy the things that you want to buy, and you just add the things to cart, and then you'll be good to go. So we'll have our promotions and deals and stuff, but it'll be kind of a more standard website experience.
Yeah, and that helps probably alleviate some product bloat as well, just keeping it simple. So moving on to the next question from Derp42, I think that's how it's pronounced. Will there ever be different spirit creatures for the same element? Like Zaptor being a raptor, maybe a double spirit card that's an evolution of Zaptor with a drawback to using, or just different creatures to make it so the spirit deck can have a bit of variety. Kind of like different land arts in Magic the Gathering. Hashtag Sluggle Plush Hype Train.
Okay, so this is another one of those, like, I'll never say never, right? So right now my focus is on the 6 spirits that you guys know about and the 2 spirits that you guys don't know about, and the 8 elements that are in the game, and really focusing on those creatures. I think that they're awesome designs, and I'm really excited to kind of expand upon them in the lore and in the world of Elestria and what we're building with Elestrals. So is it possible that one day the water spirit is a turtle instead of Leviathan? Maybe, right? I can't speak to that far in the future. If that does happen, it would be quite a ways in the future. It's not something I'm even thinking of at this point. Like, obviously I've thought of it, but it's not something like we're designing towards right now. So I wouldn't expect that. But yeah, I would say that's, you'll see the spirits in different ways, in terms of different arts, and every set will be releasing a new set of spirits in terms of their art, right? So it'll still be Tyratlis and Vipyro and Zaptor, but it'll be new arts of them for every set. But yeah, I would say that's probably where we're gonna stand for now. I will say, as a fun, like, little tidbit of some of the stuff that we've thought of in development, I don't know if this will ever make it into the game, but we have entertained the idea, or at least very early on, we entertained the idea of releasing, like, spirits that had stat modifiers or effect modifiers built into the spirit. I felt that would overcomplicate gameplay at this stage of the game, but it was something that we did kind of toss around at one point, where like you could have, let's say you run a deck of 20 Terratlas, for example, right? 5 of them boost your defense stat by +1, 5 of them boost your attack stat by +1, and then 10 of them boost your, I don't know, give you a special effect where, you can regen a spirit if you destroy an Elestral in battle or something. So we toyed around with that idea, but again, I felt that it overcomplicated things and wasn't really necessary at this stage. So if that ever comes back, you can refer back to this video and remember that we had thought about it. That's gonna be chaotic. I'll just say it now. If and when we do that, that will be very chaotic. So give us 20 years.
And do you have any commentary on some of the spirit-looking creatures in the lore video that you dropped forever ago? Because there's some things that look like Terratlas, but definitely isn't Terratlas. Or is that still hush-hush?
I have no comments about that at all.
Alright, so moving on to the next question from Must Be Musty. As the creator of the game, do you find yourself planning more support for the strategies you like the most? Perhaps like Pegasus making tunes overpowered in Duelist Kingdom? Do you have moments where playing with the base set where you think when blank comes out in set 3, this strategy will do so much better?
Yeah, so kind of answering the question twice. So the second part first, do I say, oh yeah, this idea will be really good in future sets? Now those things are starting to happen. Admittedly, when I designed the first set, like I wasn't designing set 2 when I designed the first set, right? So like I designed the cards understanding that like I wanted to have a cohesive game for the launch. Now as we design set 2 and set 3 and set 4, like yes, I look back at the previous cards and say, you know what, this is a card that I would like to focus on and maybe give a little bit more functionality in future sets because maybe we missed the mark or maybe I wanted it to be stronger or whatever it may be. And I will most certainly say and admit that my personal biases most certainly play into development. I mean, there's no way they can't, right? So I will say we have a team of playtesters and we have other people who look at the effects and the balance of the game and test the game alongside me, and their feedback is all taken in and into consideration as we develop things. But just as I will specifically take an Elestral that I really think is an awesome design or really think has a lot of potential, and I'll specifically try to give it a really good effect, right? Maybe a step above another card. I will do the same, obviously, for the Elestrals that I personally like. But I think I have a good level of balance with that. I mean, my favorite Elestral is, I would say the Nimbug line, well, up until Peanut, and Stratomoth is anything from OP. Now, that doesn't mean you won't see Stratomoth get some love in the future, right? But Stratomoth in this moment right now is pretty lackluster. I'll tell you, I tried a few times to make it a little bit better, and I never quite got to the OP status. But so yeah, I mean, listen, I can't pretend like my personal biases won't play in a factor, but I think that I'm objective enough in the design of the game that I would never let it take over the game, right? At the end of the day, I want a balanced game that's fun to play for people, that has a diverse metagame that encourages different decks to be utilized, and something that people enjoy playing. So if I would never put a card in that was so insane on purpose just because I wanted it to be insane. Like I'm not sitting behind the scenes maniacally laughing, thinking about Stratomoth raining terror on everything. So I think we'll be in good shape. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. I mean, listen, and then the last thing I'll say is, listen, when the time comes and, we get to play in a real tournament and in person, like, I'm there, you're there, we're sitting across the table from each other, just don't be surprised if I play cards you've never seen. That's all I'm saying. Like, that is totally gonna happen. It wouldn't be an official event, right? Like, I could never compete in an official tournament. But I could play inside events with you guys, and I plan to do so it'll be fun.
Alright, moving on to Grunkle Shen John's question. Will you keep serializing the Stellars in the future? Sets like First Edition, Unlimited, sets 2, 3, 4, and keep that going?
Yeah, what's up, Johnny? Bam, what? So, yeah, serialized Stellar Rares are a thing. They're gonna be a thing. I will say that there's gonna be some small changes to it, all positive. But the idea of a set pool of Elestrals that have serialized cards from 1 to 99, and that many are in a set, that is going to happen. It exists in set 2, it's going to exist in set 3, it's going to exist in set 4. I don't know after that right now, but we're definitely doing serialized Stellar Rares. It's one of my personal favorite things about the collecting aspect. I really like it. That's why I put it in the game. You know, the one thing I'll say is when it comes to unlimited prints, we haven't done any unlimited prints. You know, we're about to print first edition for base set, and then we're gonna print first edition for Frostfall. I don't know when and if an unlimited print would come. If and when an unlimited print does come, though, I will say that we have to change that for the unlimited print. You can't serialize cards in an unlimited print because the way an unlimited print works is I say, okay, we're printing unlimited. We're going to print, let's say, 100 booster boxes, right? It would be way more, but we print 100 booster boxes, and I put number 1 through 10 in there, right? But then 3 months later on the unlimited print, I say, okay, we're going to print 500 more booster boxes. Well, what do, right? I already put the Stellars in the first 100. You know, do I space them out and then not really? You can't do it. It doesn't make sense. There's no way to do it with serialized cards in an unlimited print run unless you change the serialization every wave. But you really have to communicate, and you'd have to change packaging for that, and then it's not an unlimited print run anymore because you're changing the functionality of the games or the cards. So there's a solution for it. I know the solution for it. We've discussed it internally. It would probably look something like Stellar Rares that are not serialized, but you know, still exist, and they'll be like have a special number on them or something that they would all have the same number. They would still be really rare. They just wouldn't be serialized. So that would be the exception to the serialization aspect of it. But for the time being, for first editions, which is what the next 2 prints are, there will be serialized Stellar Rares, and again, the only exception to that would be if we did an unlimited print run, which hopefully we'll do, right? If first edition sells out right away, then we'll do an unlimited print run. But, you know, we'll have a good solution for it. It's not an area that I'm worried about. I think it'll be cool either way, so we'll make it work.
Right, and actually your next question is going to run right along with the Stellar Hunt kind of fanatics. Ludicrous Lunatic wants to know, will there be measures put in place to prevent pack weighing in future sets?
So I can tell you that I had someone on the team do some pack weighing of base set, and my understanding was that there wasn't any sort of concrete evidence of one way or another of a pack having a holo versus a non-holo and so on and so forth, right? Now, I had seen some insight that said that maybe there was a way to kind of tell, but it was inconclusive. So far the feedback that I've gotten is that it's pretty inconclusive because there's some variation in terms of card weight and packaging weight, and it's not super easy to pinpoint exactly. So the answer to the question, though, is it's a little complicated because we're in the middle of switching manufacturers, right? Like, I've been very transparent about that. So, you know, once I get the first edition packs and everything, and you know, people have their cards for first edition, I can't with 1,000,000% certainty say what the resolution of that is going to be, like whether or not there's going to be a clear difference in terms of pack weighing, right? I just don't know. It's not something I'm able to tell on the small sample size that I have. You really need to be looking at hundreds of packs to make a decision like that, and I just don't have hundreds of packs of first edition, right? So it's something that I'm very aware of, though, right? Like, I'm super aware of this as an issue in the space of the TCGs, and I think Pokemon had a really good solution for it. For those who don't know, what Pokemon did was they put code cards into their packs. Now, the code cards served multi-purpose. One of them was to give you an online pack. That's something that I would love to do one day, but it's a little outside of our capabilities right now. And the second functionality that it served was, if you got a green code card, the green ink added more weight to the pack, which offset the fact that there was no holo in the pack. If you got a white code card, there was less ink on the card, and the holo had more ink, so it would thus even out. So a holo pack versus a non-holo pack would in theory be similar enough that you wouldn't be able to tell. So they found a really good solution, right? So we could take learnings from that and try to find ways to integrate, but that's not something I'm going to be focusing on at this stage right now, right? Like, I'm focusing on nailing down our quality and our production process with our new manufacturer and our publisher, and just making sure that we're creating an awesome game and an awesome product. I never want to have a situation where, like, the secondary market can be manipulated because people can weigh packs and things like that. Like, that's not an ideal scenario. So believe me, I'm aware of it. It's something I'm gonna keep an eye on, and I will most certainly react accordingly if we find it to be a big problem. I don't foresee it being a super big problem right now. I can't really speak to the future, but it's something on my radar, and I'll do the best I can to make sure that it's not an issue moving forward with the tools and capabilities that I have. So definitely a really good question for sure. And the good news is the solutions are out there. I will say, when I did produce Kickstarter, though, it was a topic of conversation with the factory. I did bring it up to them, and they said that you will not be able to weigh the packs. They indicated that there was enough variation in some of the material stuff and things like that that would result in inconsistencies in trying to do that. It seems as though that was the truth, or that ended up being the case. In terms of the new manufacturing, it's gonna, like I said, I need a bigger sample size, and we haven't produced it yet. So you know what I mean? Like I had one box that I sampled so far. So it is a little tricky to kind of get some of these answers at this stage. But again, all I can say is that it's on our radar. So that was a really long response to a simple question, but I just try to be thorough so you guys know where we're coming from. So yeah, definitely something we'll take care of if we have to.
Yeah, it is a simple question, but it's a very complex answer and solution, so I think you covered pretty much all the bases there. So moving on to the next question. Riv Jinx, will more stadium runes come out in the future that have negative effects on Elestrals? I know some people might question that, but I find the idea of debuffing the opponents fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I think first of all, I'll say that the focus right now for stadiums is to have these basic stadiums for each of the elements, right? With that being said, I can tell you that there are stadiums that are going to be introduced that are not those. They're a little bit more specific to certain strategies. In terms of stadiums that have negative influence, I would say that that's most certainly in the world of our design space for the future, yeah. So I'm not going to say with 1,000,000% certainty, yes, we're going to do that, but I don't see how I don't get there at some point, right? I think inevitably I will design a stadium that's going to have a negative effect on the Elestrals or runes on the field. So most certainly, yeah. And that's exciting design space for me to explore. So all about it. So great question. And again, I'm sure you'll see it, but that's probably like a beyond set 4 thing, if I'm being honest. Like I said, you'll see new stadiums before then, but that are not element specific. But for that kind of, more complex stadium gameplay, it's a little bit ways away. I want to make sure as I develop the sets out, we have kind of a core focus for each set, and stadiums just aren't a core focus right now. I think, not that I don't think they're important, they're a really valid point of the game. In fact, I would say that in my extensive testing of the game, I think stadiums are undervalued right now in the context of how people play Elestrals. I think they're better than people think. But I want to let them exist as they are now in this part of the game and kind of build other elements of the game first, and then we can look at kind of expanding upon the stadium aspect of the game. So as I say all that, though, I will say that like there are cards in set 2 that are like very specific to stadiums. They're just not stadiums. So you'll get the stadium support, just not in the form of the stadium itself. So we'll get there. It's gonna be sick. We got really good ideas coming.
Yeah, and with being one of the only card types that have a dedicated single slot on the board, it would be very interesting to see where you kind of push towards stadiums in the future, but it is only a couple sets in.
I gotta say, I scrapped the idea for now, but I'll just say it. So we have Spinif and Aramare, both Elestrals, when they're destroyed in battle, they become artifacts, so they have the opportunity to become an artifact. I had a card very early on in set 2 development that did that, but it became a stadium. I scrapped the idea for now, but we'll come back to it. There's gonna be some really cool stuff in the future.
Alright, that's going to be fuel for the commenters. And we're going to move on to the last question from Nephthys. Could we see potential multiplayer product in the future? Something like 2 starter decks and 1 to get friends started quickly?
Yeah, so I love that idea. I think I've answered this in past AMAs, though, in the context of, like, there's some challenges as a new game, right? And we have to navigate some of those challenges in those alleyways to ensure that we're giving ourselves the best chance to succeed. And a lot of that comes down to, like, the more product SKUs that you have, there's a tremendous amount of, like, cost that comes every time you have a new iteration of the product. Even if it's something as simple as, like, here's a pack of 5 packs versus a pack of 10 packs. Like, they're considered different products in a way, and it changes a lot of things from the manufacturing to the logistics to the fulfillment side of things. So every time we're adding new SKUs in when we do a new product launch, it makes things more challenging. That's not to say we're not going to do those things in the future, right? It's just at this stage of the game, I really want to focus in on the core products that we have, which is like our booster box, our starter decks, our blister packs, right? Those are the core things. One of the things I will say, and I've been very open about this, I'm excited about it, I think is a really, really big upgrade, is our starter decks are being upgraded for set 2. So they're going to include booster packs in them. So you're not only going to get a starter deck of 60 cards with a chance of a stellar, but it's going to come with 3 sealed booster packs, as if you would get booster packs out of a booster box or a blister pack. So not only are you going to get your starter deck, but you're now going to get packs to go with that, and you're going to be able to enhance that deck right in the moment. So that's one of the ways that we're kind of focusing on enhancing this experience for people and giving people the best opportunity to play the game and have cool cards and experience opening packs and just have a great time and like build memories, right? The idea of building like a joint starter deck that people can get and like get this one cool pack together. That sounds like a phenomenal idea one day when we roll out to retail, or if we do like a special promotional thing where we're trying to get new players involved or like friends involved and stuff. At this stage of the game though, we're kind of focusing on those core products. Like I said, the starter decks individually and stuff. So with that being said, kind of going back to an earlier question, maybe there's a deal where we say, hey, if you buy 2 starter decks, you get a discount. Like, we can do things that way as opposed to like putting them all in one package for now. So we'll see how things play out. Definitely something, you know, we'll entertain in the future. But again, I'm trying to create a lot of really cool stuff around Elestrals without creating too many different things at once, right? I mean, we're already producing playmats and card sleeves and plushies and deck boxes, which are coming, and they're going to be so cool. And then obviously all the card products and things like that. So every time you add a new SKU, you're adding a lot of extra stuff involved. So I just want to make sure that we're crushing the things that we're focusing on right now. And then, you know, once we've kind of determined that we're crushing this, we can keep this up. Now let's start adding things on, and those things will naturally come as we expand our team and get some sales and things like that, right? Because Kickstarter was amazing. Don't get me wrong. You know, you guys crushed the support, but we're still technically like a pre-market company, right? Like, we have, outside of our prototype sales and Kickstarter, which are both worth considering here, we haven't launched our store yet with the next wave of product post Kickstarter, right? So there's a level of like not wanting to get too far ahead of ourselves while we're still building this. And I think that's important. And I'm very, very clear and transparent about the fact that I genuinely believe slow and steady, brick by brick, that is the way to build Elestrals, one community member at a time, one awesome engagement at a time. Just really hone in on building a community and just focusing on that as opposed to trying to blow this up overnight, right? Like, I didn't set out to make this project so I can, you know, blow this up in a year and then walk away, right? Like, this to me is this is what I'm doing for the next, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever years, right? That's the hope, right? So I'm here for it. Let's do it. It doesn't have to happen overnight. So some of these questions are great. These things just take a little time. And switching manufacturers doesn't help, right? We lost probably 3 months in terms of our timelines because of that. But it'll be well worth it, man. Quality improvement, nailing that down is going to be super worth it. So very excited for the future.
All right, yes, that is the end of the questions. Do you have any last commentary on anything that you talked about today, Dan?
No, man, this has been great. You guys always bring the great questions. I'll put words on the spot, though. Did you have any questions for me that you want to slip in at the last minute here?
Oh, on the spot? I got nothing for you, but I'll DM you later. How about that?
See, I knew if I caught him on the spot, he wouldn't have anything good. But if he thought about it, he'd probably get me with something that I would have to reveal too much information. But thank you, man, for coming on and hosting with me. And thank you guys all for sending your questions. If you want to send your questions in, go to discord.gg/Elestrals. Go to the AMA channel and just leave your questions there. We try to do one of these every month at least, where I just give you my honest thoughts on everything we're developing and just try to be as transparent as I can about the process. So it's been a wild ride. I'm excited. I feel like we're just getting started. This is the tip of the iceberg. So I hope you guys are ready for a fun ride because we're going places whether you're on the bus or not. So hop on, let's have some fun, and let's build something special.
All right, yeah. Thanks for having me again, and come to community Discord. It's so much fun down there, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you in Discord. Thanks so much again to Words, and thank you guys all for your questions, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.